really sorry. Yeah. So, welcome, guys. Saturday night. Hope you've all had a great Saturday so far. It was a super performance from Celtic today against Livingston. My name is Gaz. I'm going to be your host every week on the Celtic FC Appreciation Show. This is the first episode, and I'm delighted to say we've got Paul, a DJ from Glasgow. Paul, yeah.
I am, yes.
Yeah.
From Glasgow.
So he's been on a page before for us doing a wee set, and hopefully we'll get him back on shortly. So let's start with today's 6-0 win against Livingston. Finally, we've brought the fire. Finally, we've brought the performance. What was your initial thoughts of the game, Paul?
I think the first half could have been a bit better, but the way we came out in the second half. In the first 15-20 minutes was just showed their dominance, to be honest. All really good goals. I think Forrest being back in the team, and after today, I hope he's all right. I hope it's nothing too serious as well, because him and Mo had a great game. And Mo Mohamed, honestly, his problem is consistency. But I think having him and Forrest on when you're playing 4-2-3-1 really helps drag those defenders out for enable them to make runs. And both of them are really technically good at getting in, cutting in from the wing as well, which Forrest didn't always have while he's been at Celtic. So he's really worked on that and matured as a player. And playing that 4-2-3-1 was worked perfect today. John Kennedy said after the game that he's been waiting on that kind of result coming, the goals coming, and I hope that's the case. I hope the confidence comes and they march on and be consistent, which is the biggest thing they've not been this year, is consistency. Not scoring 6 goals and then going away and throwing a game away again. So, but great. I don't know what that kind of performance has been all season, but it's good to see it, and I just hope it kind of continues.
Yeah, I mean, it felt a wee bit too little, too late, and I thought when I initially seen the team, I thought to myself, yet again, one up front. Obviously, he's planning on doing it next week at Ibrox. That's why he's went one up front today. I thought Edward's first touch let him down today a lot. I thought, as you say, Elyounoussi and Forrest, it was great to see them back, and I think, I don't know if it's maybe just a hamstring or just a wee kind of a wee tweak that Jamesy's felt. But as you say, that's what we've been missing all season. Somebody's going to hit that byline down the right hand side. Somebody's going to whip balls in for the danger men. And I'm just hoping that this performance has came at the right time for us, because obviously we go into Ibrox next week that we're going to touch on later on. It's a massive game in terms of, I would actually sacrifice the last derby game at Ibrox. I wouldn't mind them going invincible, as long as we win next week and not win the cup, because it would just be typical of our season for them to go and end up doing the double and getting to Hampden. So it's all about us defending another Scottish Cup. We're going obviously for 5 in a row this year. So yeah, I thought it was a really poor first half. I thought it was really kind of slow and methodical. We were comfortable. We were always comfortable, and you knew the goals were coming. And as soon as the first goal came, a scuffed effort for James. To be fair, I know he scored an OG last week, but he scored the goal with a deflection last week. But I mean, obviously, Elyounoussi getting the goals today, getting a brace today. How important is it, would you say, that we keep a hold of him and try and make it a permanent deal in the summer?
I think him, he kind of describes the team overall. He's not being consistent as he was last year, and most of the team haven't, if we're perfectly honest. But you can see from today he's got that, and he's got that, just ability, natural ability, and he's dangerous. And I can certainly, even today's performance, if you base that on last season, I think he's raised it a little bit as well, based on today's performance, not overall this season. But I don't think we'll be able to keep him. I don't think we will. But I'd like to see him. But I'd also like to see wee Mikey getting a game in there as well, because he's a young lad, but he's good as well. So
I think as you say, it's all about homegrown talent and trying to nurture that homegrown talent. Players like players that's came through the academy, like Tierney and Callum's been there for ages. Forrest has been there for ages. You want to see more players like that come through. Obviously, I think Elyounoussi would probably command. I think you'd be talking 7-8 million, to be honest, and whether that's in Celtic's ballpark figure. I know obviously we're going to be rebuilding for next season, and Dominic Mackay, who we'll get on to a wee bit later on as well. In terms of the other scorers today, Ryan Christie, it was great to see him getting on the score sheet again. 2 goals in 2 games. What's your kind of opinion's been on him? Are you with the majority of the fans that he maybe should go in the summer?
I'm just not a big fan of Christie, and I never really have been. And he is technically very gifted at times, but I think sometimes he's very selfish on the ball, and I think he always wants to score 20, 30 yarders, and yes, does he have the ability to do that? Yeah, probably, but not all the time, and I think he's a bit selfish in that sense. I think he'll go. I think, in my opinion, and a lot will disagree, that I'd probably, if I had a replacement for him, I'd probably do that. But to be fair to him, this season he's kind of covered Forrests, and he's not a natural right winger anyway. So maybe that's kind of made it look actual worse, in my opinion. But he's a good player, and I think it's really important. There are some players that I think are definitely going to go, and if we can keep him, then I'd like to keep him, but I'm still kind of like 60-40 where we should, because I'm not his biggest fan. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of opposite scale. I'm a massive Ryan Christie fan. I think he's not had the best of seasons. I'll be honest. I don't think anybody's had a great season this year. But I genuinely think, that he's still. He's still got a match-winning goal in him. He's still got that moment of magic, and I know he probably takes on too many shots, as you say. He's a wee bit too greedy on the ball sometimes when, he needs to learn to release the ball a lot more, his teammates, rather than just take the shot on, because 9 times out of 10, as everybody's alluded to this season, it ends up in Rose Ed, So I think, obviously, but he's got that magical moment, like against Aberdeen, like against Hearts, even today, took his goal really well last week. So he is lethal when he wants to be, but he just needs to be. He just needs to show that more. I'm just going to. Danny McElhinney says Celtic played well today, even though it was a meaningless game. Here's hoping for a good result on Friday or Saturday. I heard it's getting changed to the Friday because of Phillips funeral on Saturday. I highly doubt that, but. And we will get on to the Celtic Rangers game later on, because I've got a few points about that. But in terms of just obviously the rest of the game, as I say, Elyounoussi, man of the match, it was unbelievable today. And I think it was a commentary that says, I think Jeremy Cullett says, it's just a shame that the stadium isn't full, because they'd be rising to applaud Elyounoussi performance, rather. David Turnbull, obviously, with the easiest goal he will ever score. Obviously, Elyounoussi done the donkey work down the line. We hadn't had deflection, which helped the cross. But how important is it for us to build around him next season?
See, when we're talking about Christie, Turnbull comes into my head because, I think in terms of positions, they kind of play in similar positions. But I'd much rather Turnbull than Christie. I think 9 times out of 10, everything Turnbull touches is bang on almost. Pinpoint crosses, in his work rate. I seen a challenge going in him, and he was on his back, and he managed to slide in and get the ball back again. And it's just that kind of never give up attitude. And I think, with Bruni leaving, I think Sorrell will come in. I think that's a natural kind of progression. And I think Turnbull playing in that number 10 role, we should definitely kind of build around. around that. But I think Sorrell's going to have a big season next season unless we bring in another centre mid or defensive midfielder. And McGregor's, McGregor, I think he's not been in the amazing form, but he's that solid player. I thought he worked really well today. He was all over the park, working really hard, and he chases things down. And that's what I want. That's what I miss. I miss that work rate, and I've not seen that enough this season. And players like Turnbull, McGregor on his good games, runs backside. Bruni was brilliant today. Never gave up anything. They all had that work rate today, and that's what I'm looking for. And I still think the defence today still looked a wee bit jailbait, if I'm being honest. And then the balls are coming in, and not against not a bad Livingston side, but they should be doing better. And it always looked like panic stations sometimes as well. And I think we can do better than that. I think our defence is needing something in there. I don't know if we're missing the big man Julian or not. But sometimes he doesn't have the best game. But like you say, it's not been everybody's season. I think Turnbull's an important part of next season. But I think we need to sort from back to front, from the back first, because I think we still look a wee bit dodgy there.
Yeah, I think as you say, they were kind of breaking through us at times today, but I think Scott Bain won't have many quieter afternoons. To be honest, he didn't really have. I think he had one save. So, but it was obviously the biggest win of the season, unbelievably. I think since the first game of the season when we beat Hamilton. But in terms of, I'm going to move on to Eddie Howe, this merry-go-round that seems to be following the managerial appointment. Still nothing's done. The season ticket renewal is coming up soon. And I think Celtic are playing with fire big time by not at least kind of reassuring the fans what's happening. Do you see Eddie Howe coming in now? Do you think it's still a done deal, or do you think might look elsewhere?
Well, this is depending on rumours. Are true. I heard that he's already met Dermot Desmond and Dominic Mackay in London, and if that's the case, and he's not decided he wants the job yet, does that mean Celtic fans want him? Because surely, no matter how good the manager is, you want somebody. They get offered that job. Everything's met, verbally agreed. Let's get it announced. So the factors of delay, I don't know if it's on Celtic side or his side. If it's on his side, a lot of Celtic fans, I think, and I kind of agree in the sense that, maybe he's touting for another job and making himself available and making that public that he's had meetings or there's interest from Celtic. And, if his heart's not really in Celtic, then I don't really want him. I want somebody to come in. I remember when Martin O'Neill, I watched a wee interview with Martin O'Neill on Facebook the other night, and Alex Ferguson phoned him and says, Dermot Desmond wants you to join Celtic. And he couldn't believe it. He was like, I'm there. I want that job. And that's the guy you want. That's the guy that will come in. And it doesn't have to be a supporter, but it's somebody that wants to come in and be a fighter along with his team. And, he wants to be there. Not somebody that's going to dilly-dally, that's been offered the job and then not. I still think there's time for him to do it, to come in, but I don't think it will happen. That's just my kind of opinion. I don't know if it will. I know the ex-Dortmund manager is now getting kicked about Facebook, that he's maybe Celtic are interested in him. So and then you've got Kennedy, who I think is the cheap option, and I don't think that'll go well with Celtic fans in terms of season books, in terms of anything. I think it has to be a big name or a biggish enough name with enough experience rather than John Kennedy. I think it's a cheap option, and I really hope they don't go that way. I mean, John Kennedy's had 5 games before today, scored 11, conceded 1, won 4 of them and drew 1. So, I mean, the record in that sense isn't bad, but he's done what he had to do. He's come in, he's kind of balanced the team out, he's Neil Lennon going, not going kind of thing. Or, I can imagine how the dressing room must have been, so, but I don't think Kennedy's the man for the job. It has to be somebody that comes in with that experience and that desire, and that's what I'd be looking at. So, with the delay, I don't think Howe will come in. I think it might be somebody else.
It's funny because when John Kennedy was announced as taking the team temporarily, I kind of joked that, oh God, you know what's going to happen? We're going to go and win the Scottish Cup, and he's going to get offered the job in the showers. I mean, it's just you can just see it. But no, I think he has. I don't know if I'd say steadied the ship. What he's done is he's made sure that we've not lost since he's taken over. But the problem with that is, and I felt it at Dundee United, and I even felt it against Rangers at Celtic Park, he's more scared of losing the game than he is trying to win it.
Yeah.
He won't take the chances, he won't take the risks to try and win a game. He would rather play for a draw, and that's what he done at Dundee United, and that's what he done at against Rangers. So I really hope that we don't go down the John Kennedy route. I can't see it. I cannot see it. I think Eddie Howe's a 90% done deal, and I think the thing that's holding it up is the whole director of football scenario, where I think he wants to bring in his own guy. I think it's Richard Hughes. He wants to bring him in. To me, if that's all that's holding it up, let him bring him in. Let him bring in who he wants, because whatever's going to make him settle quicker, whatever's going to make him feel more comfortable at Celtic and start off better, then do it. I don't know much about Fergal Harkin. I know that's Celtic's preferred choice, but listen, it's funny because director of football is, I always say, it's one of the made up jobs that you don't need at a football club. It's just, I think it was Newcastle United that appointed Dennis Wise. They were the first ones to do it. And it was just a nothing job. So I don't think it's important, but obviously it's the way Celtic are going to go. They want Fergal Harkin. Eddie wants Richard Hughes. He wants his guys in. And if that's what it's going to take, then, give him what he wants, because I think he's probably the brighter option that's been offered to us. I know the guy Favre has been mentioned as well quite a lot, but I think Eddie Howe's probably a done deal. As you say, he's met with Dermot Desmond, and I don't think he's going to do that if he's not interested in the job. So it depends on the budget, obviously, as well, in terms of whether he's going to need to work more with the young players rather than, listen, there's a chunk of money. Or whether it's going to come down to Champions League qualification or Europa League qualification. Maybe that's a possibility as well. But I'm just kind of glad we've stepped away from the Roy Keane saga.
Yeah.
Much like every Celtic fan, I don't think anybody wanted Roy Keane, really. As you say, it was a really good point you made about Martin O'Neill. You want somebody that's got that fire in their belly. And I think even Brendan Rodgers had that fire in his belly when he came to the club. You could see how much passion he had for the job. And while I don't agree with the way he left, obviously that's the kind of manager you're looking for. And I really felt like as much as Neil Lennon done well when he came in that February to take over from Rodgers, he came in, you could see the pressure he was under right away. He wanted to deliver that league title and then deliver the treble, which he did. You've seen the emotions after the cup final against Hearts. He was a cheap option, but after Brendan Rodgers, we really should have been going for another high-end name. Maybe like a Rafa Benitez, or a Premier League manager, somebody like that. But I just think Eddie Howe is the right way to go. And I'm hoping when Dominic Mackay gets announced, that he will probably get announced in the coming days. Don't
get me wrong, I 100% want Howe as well. I'm just doubtful will it happen. And I think maybe the delay is due to whether he's coming straight in or the summer. And I think that might cause a bit of delay as well. So just to put on, I know you were going to mention Danny there. So.
I think just to kind of touch on it, it's I think he's. I would have loved to have seen him come in midweek, take charge against Livingston, get his feet under the table, and a baptism of fire next week at Ibrox. Because I think you see it all the time when new managers come in, the players get a wee bit of a kick, they get a wee bit of a lift, and they seem to play better. Obviously, it's been our best performance of the season today. It slightly worries me that we've scored so many today. I hope we've not outscored ourselves for next week. I'll take a 1-0 next week quite happily.
Do you think today they played better because they know the manager's coming in? Maybe.
Possibly.
And they've upped their game a wee bit.
Possibly, because I thought when it was 2-0, or more into the second half, we just clicked. Something clicked, and we just gelled. And Livingston didn't know what to hit them. I don't know if they've conceded 6 goals all season, Livingston, in a game. But yeah, I thought something clicked, and maybe, as you say, maybe it was, news behind the scenes that the new manager's coming in. Danny says Big Eddie's lost his touch. Hopefully he's up for the Old Firm game, and if he's no done anything in the first half, I would bring on wee Griff. In an ideal world, Danny, I'd love to see us go for 2 up front next week and really hit them straight for the off, but he'll play Edward, and Eddie's always up for these games. You know that he's got that killer instinct in these games, and I think he'll definitely be up for it. I would have loved to have seen Griffiths come on a lot sooner today, but it's this whole 1 up front that's just plagued us for years. We're an attacking side and we're not a defensive side, as we've clearly shown all season. I'm going to kind of touch on the director of football and Dominic Mackay obviously coming in early. Peter Lawwell is still staying, as I'm aware. He is staying until I think it's the 1st of June or the 1st of July. So he's still staying until June or July. He will have a say, albeit in the background, about any kind of future deals for Celtic. In terms of Dominic Mackay's obviously came in because I think there's a lot to do, probably a lot more than they thought. And I'd imagine the Scottish rugby scene's a bit quiet at the moment with Six Nations just finishing. What's your opinions on Dominic Mackay? Do you know much about him?
He's Scottish rugby is really, and I remember growing up watching Scottish rugby, and it was always Scotland were always good. The Scottish teams were always good. They kind of fell away, and when he's come in, he's got Glasgow and Edinburgh flying high in Europe. He's got Scottish national rugby team who just beat France away and had some brilliant results in the Six Nations. So this guy, I don't know a hell of a lot of what he actually physically done, but it comes from the top. So, he must have been doing things right in there because Scotland really upped their game in the Scottish rugby, whereas the domestic teams or the national team consistently improved under him. So, and I'm excited about that and his ability to be able to do that. And I think it was always going to be the case he would come in early. I think everybody was shocked to hear that he was going to come in the summer, and I'm like, why wait till then? And I think it's good for him to come in, have that transition, because next season is massive, and he needs to be ready, and he needs to have his management team ready by that before next season. So because it's massive, absolutely massive next season.
Aye, I think I don't know much about him, about his background. Obviously, as you say, he's done a lot for Scottish rugby. I have heard he's a Celtic fan. I don't know if that's going to make a difference. But supposedly he's a season ticket holder at Celtic, so he is a big Celtic fan. He's not coming into this kind of blindsided. As I say, I think he's really going to be hands-on. From the interviews that I've heard, he seems to be a really hands-on kind of guy. And listen, nothing really against Peter Lawwell, because as much as Peter Lawwell has taken so much stick and so much grief, especially in recent seasons, I think he's run Celtic absolutely first class. He's kept his debt free for I don't know how long. Although he hasn't splashed the cash majorly on players for managers, whether it was Dyla or Lennon or Rodgers, he's obviously we've still had an amazing amount of success under him, and I think he is going to be missed around Celtic Park. Obviously, I know a lot of the players and a lot of the managers speak highly of him as a kind of guy. So it's I've actually just to interrupt. One of our pals just sent us a thing from the Scottish FA website regarding the Scottish Cup 4th round fixtures. It says, in light of confirmation that the funeral of Prince Philip will take place next Saturday at 3 p.m, we have entered dialogue with the relevant stakeholders with regard to the Scottish Cup fourth round fixtures scheduled on that day. We will update participating clubs, supporters and partners in due course. That sounds like the game's off next week. Or rather, it will get moved, it will get shifted to another day. As I say, going back to Dominic Mackay, I do think he's going to be really, really hands-on. I'm really looking forward to it. But as I say, we go back to it, the only problem is the lack of communication. You know, Dermot Desmond came out with an interview not long ago, an interview that told you everything and told you nothing. It was very, very vague. You know, he didn't really drop any kind of massive hints of who was coming in. It was very scripted, and I just thought it was pointless in him doing the interview kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I actually seen something the other day, and I thought it was quite cheeky by John Kennedy. They were talking about the manager position, which is, to be fair to him, is, you know, a difficult question for him, because he might want to be throwing his hat in there. You know, what's his future? So it's difficult. But he says Celtic fans need to be patient. And I think that's quite cheeky, you know. If you consider the season we've had, it has been a shambles from top to bottom, you know, from Peter Law right down to the team, individual players, everything. The Dubai debacle, you know, playing Rangers so many times, and we played them off the park and should have beat them, and not taking those chances, and then asking, you know, Neil Lennon goes, no communication about managers. Nothing, and we're still sitting here and debating what's happening. And you know, Dominic Mackay comes in, and I think that's, you know, happened, and it's a good thing it's happening. But I think it's just taking okay, Celtic fans, something's happening, you know, so we're doing something. But I think the communication has been really poor, and I really hope we get a manager in, or at least he's named to come in at the end of the season, because I don't want it to be like every summer transfer window is, and it's a last minute biscuit tin stuff. You know, you're trying to pull players in just for the sake of it because you need cover there, rather than the quality of the players. But that comes down to different things like directors of football and the scouts and whatever else. But Celtic are always last minute, and this is too important to leave last minute. And but you're right about Peter Law. You know, he's done a great job. You know, you have to look back and look at the history since he's been there. Financially, you know, but this season's made as a backside of it. You know, from top to bottom in the club has just been a farce. So,
absolutely, I think as you say, I think so much has surrounded this season, so much pressure, and kind of animosity almost at times. You know, we lost to Ross County late last year, and you know, the fans were rioting outside the ground, you know, throwing stuff at the buses, and I was just like, this is our first cup defeat in 4 years. You know, you can't just go up and start chanting sack the board because you get beat with Ross County. You've no given right to beat any team in football, as Man City will testify to. You know, losing at home to Leeds United. So you know, you've no any God-given right to win a football game, and I think. As I say, if this wasn't the 10 in a row season, I don't think the fans would have been up in arms as it was, kind of thing. But I just think that there was too much pressure on this season. I'm kind of glad it's all over. I have to be honest. As much as I would have loved to have won 10 in a row, it's now about rebuilding. And as I say, as you said, rather, you know, you can't leave this to the last minute. I know we've already possibly got Liam Shaw in from Sheffield Wednesday. I think he signed a pre-contract. I know there's maybe a wee bit of legal work still to do over that. But, you know, I think is the new manager going to want Liam Shaw in that team? That's the thing. So you need a manager that's going to be in. Whether or not Eddie Howe's already said he's going to take a job and he's a wee looking at players and coming back to Dermot Desmond, I don't know. But as you say, I think it's less than 90 days to our first qualifier in the Champions League. We need players in. We need to rebuild the squad. And as I say, I'm going to move on to it in a few minutes. You know, who's going to stay, who's going to go, because a lot of players in the last year of a contract, a lot of players that are valued highly, like Callum McGregor, like Christopher Ayer, like Odsonne Edouard. So we definitely need to sort out who's staying, who's going, and basically, who wants to be there, because I seen an interview with Ryan Christie saying that he was up for the fight, he was ready to fight for his place, to keep his place there. And it sounded to me as if he was ready for a fight. So, we definitely need to keep those sort of players at the club. I think, as I say, I'll get on to the players anyway in a wee minute that I think could stay, a couple of surprise ones. Danny says, Celtic need to let the fans know who's coming in. If it's Eddie Howe or whoever, before they start asking for season book money, as I say, we've covered that absolutely bang on. Needs to be a lot more communication. Chris Hanratty Jr., I just hope that Mackay's appointment doesn't have the same effect as Southampton had. Obviously, listen, there's no guarantee with managers coming in. There was no guarantee with Dyla or Rodgers or Lennon that there was going to be success there. So you take a risk with any manager. It doesn't matter how good his pedigree is. We could go and get Jose Mourinho to come up here, a guy that's won Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues, and he could come up here and it might not work. So there's no guarantee. But in terms of Paul, the players that could possibly stay or go, who would you like to see go? Who would you like to see stay?
I think there's a relatively big talking point here in terms of who's going to be our captain for next season. So I've seen some people posting about, give Ayer the captaincy. That will keep him. He won't go. Should McGregor, he's the, automatic one everybody thinks of. He will be the captain. I don't know if McGregor's got the same fire in the belly as Brown had, but I could be wrong. McGregor's a great player. In terms of going out, although the captaincy is really important, I think that will probably need sorted soon, if they've not already sorted it and we just don't know. Big discussion about Griffiths, let's be honest here. It's very split from everybody I've spoke to. Some people want him, he's been linked to Aberdeen. Go. You've came back overweight, unfit. The club's been very good with him. Why is he not getting game time? He's I think he's scored 40 odd goals in the last 5 seasons, which is just, for a striker, it's just confidence just drains from you, and you need to be confident in terms of a striker. I think personally Griffiths will go, but then I need to think of, look at who Celtic have brought in: Ayeti, Klamala, Griffiths. Natural ability mixed with confidence you can run over both of them easily. And in my opinion, I like Griffiths. I realise he's messed the club about, but I think a manager coming in, even though he's had different managers, but a manager coming in, look him in the eye and say, look, this is your chance to go and score the goals that we all know he can do, because naturally he's a great finisher. He just needs that confidence. I would keep him for next year because he's got that effect. And so, but a lot of people would like him to go because, he's not fit. He's not getting a game. Yet he's getting in front of him. Klamala at times as well. So I think Eddie will go. I think he will. I actually seen something that AC Milan were looking to do a swap deal plus money for Laxalt.
I seen that, yeah.
I don't want Laxalt, I'll be honest. I thought, in the first game he came in, I think it was the Rangers game, the one we lost at Parkhead at the beginning of the season, and I didn't think he had a bad game at the beginning of that game, and I was thinking, this guy looks all right. And I don't think he's a bad player, but I think Greg Taylor having that competition has brought Greg Taylor out. Today he was fantastic, Greg Taylor. So I don't really want Laxalt, but I do think Edouard will go. In terms of, he's like somebody mentioned, I think it was Danny mentioned it earlier, he's touches, he seems, maybe low in confidence in terms of striker's hard. And I think he's a big game player though, and he turns up for most of the games. But I think he'll go. I think Christie will go. and potentially Ayer as well. And I think that's what kind of everybody's saying, that those three are the kind of main ones that will go. Duffy will go back. I'd like to keep Elyounoussi, but I don't think that will happen. I'd like he says earlier, Gaz, I think it'll be a nice big price tag on him. But potentially from the other transfer money, as the other players go, maybe that could happen. I hope, and I would like to think he would like to stay at Celtic, but and I think Duffy's had a season to forget, let's be honest. I think he'll go back, and I don't think he'll be inside the Celtic Park as a player again. And I think potentially Barkas might go, because wee Connor Hazard's came in, played a few games, looked decent for a young lad. So these are players that if you're talking about Barkas, Kamala, Ayeti, it's close to £15 million just for the three players that spent, and they're not even playing them. They're not playing them at all.
Aye.
It's just absolute waste. So the main ones I think will go. Eddie, I think definitely go. I think Ayer will go, and I'm kind of undecided if Christie will go or not. Like I said earlier, I'm not his biggest fan, but a lot of people like him, and he is technically good. So it's a big job to do. And like I says already, that defence currently isn't good enough. Stephen Welsh just came in, done a great job for a young lad. Come in. Ayer's good. I like sometimes when he runs forward, but sometimes it scares me and maybe leaves us fragile at the back when he's playing centre back and he's making bursts forwards. I know it was great today and he set up Mo really well. It kind of scares me. But I think we'll have Sorrell, who's a really good defensive midfielder on that occasion. But I think Ayer, Edward will definitely go. Duffy will go. Laxalt will go. And I think Griffiths will go. And I think Elyounoussi will go back. And I don't think he'll be back. I hope he will, but I don't know. I think he will.
Martin Whitaker reckons the heading for the exit will be Edward, Ayer, Brown, Laxalt, Duffy, John Joe Kenny, Lee Griffiths, Ryan Christie, Vasilis Barkas, Patrick Kilmala, and Albin Ayeti. That's a big call to say that that three of our strikers are going to head for the four of our strikers. Will head for the door. That would be incredible, because you've got to replace him. And a lot was made of Ivan Toney not coming in. I said at the start of the season we should have broke the bank for the boy. I really, really liked him. He's
had a great season.
He's smashed it down there. Flying. He's absolutely smashed it down there. Another player that's playing well down there, Adam Armstrong at Blackburn. Yeah. These are players that I seen somebody coming in. I seen somebody with a statement the other day saying we should go and break the bank and bring Ivan Toney in next season. Time's gone. He's gone for 20 million.
He'll be a fortune.
He's going for 20 million now. There's no chance of getting him for 8 or 10. I think in terms of who's going to go, if you're starting with the keepers, I would actually like to see Barkas stay as much as I've criticised him this season. It's not that he's probably had any howlers. I think it's just he's been a wee bit gun shy, a wee bit kind of shy in terms of no commanding enough. The way Fraser Forster was, he's a giant figure and he knew how to command his defence. Problem has been the defence, let's face it, because it's been so stop-start with the defence. Players have went in, players have came out, and I don't think he's had a recognised back four in front of him. So I think that's what's probably put him off a wee bit. But we spent 5 million on him. I think we've got to give him a full season at least. I like Scott Bain. I'm a big Scott Bain fan. Connor Hazard is as much as he's done well for us in the cup final, and I know he's had a few clean sheets in the league. I think he might need to get farmed out to get a wee bit of loan action. I would like to see him maybe go into a decent club in England, League One or a Championship club in England, and play like a full season, because I think he just needs that about him. He needs to be a number one for somebody for a season. So I'd love to see him go and then come back and command a place at Celtic kind of thing. In terms of defence, we talked about captaincy earlier on. You know, Christopher Ayer, I would dangle the captain's armband at Christopher Ayer to help to try and make him stay. I don't think he looks unhappy at Celtic. I know a lot of people saying he's unhappy at Celtic. I don't believe that for a minute. I think the passion, the hunger, the desire he still shows for Celtic. You know, phenomenal, brilliant run today to set up one of the goals, and I think he's got that in his tank. I think I would even like to see him play out of position, away from centre back, and just put him in behind, or put him in front of the defence rather, and let him kind of roam, because I think that's where he's going to be stronger. So I'd like to see him stay. And I think I'm probably 60-40 that he's going to go. But as you say, Duffy, it's just no work for the big man. I really do feel for him, because he's quite clearly a massive Celtic fan. And I think he's came up here thinking, I'm going to come up and win 10 in a row. And it's, you know, I'm going to live off it for the rest of my life. And I think he's done what a lot of fans, a lot of players down in England do. They think it's easy, and they come up here and they quite often leave with their tail between their legs. As I say, Duffy, again, when you look at the way Brighton play, Brighton don't play with that kind of high press with their defence. So he's obviously had to go for playing at the back quite a lot for Brighton, and a kind of cushy kind of league, because there's no pace, there's no high intensity. Whereas he's came up here and it's 100 mile an hour, and you know there's nothing is held back by any team, by any player. So, and he started well, and he scored a couple of goals when he came up, and I think that helped him, and it probably pulled the wool over the fans' eyes a wee bit. It's just not been his season, and I think he will go back down to England. In terms of, we need to get Big Julian back, without a doubt. We need to get the big man back in defence. But I think we need to actually build around not just Turnbull, but young Welsh in defence. I think he's really cementing his place in that team, and I'd love to see him and Ayer in that kind of central defensive partnership. In terms of midfielders, John Joe Kenny. I'd love to see John Joe Kenny stay, and I think we'd probably get him for about $6 million. I was discussing this with one of my mates today. I think we could get him for $6-7 million, and I think at 23 years of age, he looks a rough and ready type Premier League player. I think he'll mix it with the best up here. I think he'll really get stuck in if we get him in a permanent. Love to see him stay. In terms of midfielders, I'd love to see us get Elyounoussi. Again, I'm with you. I'm not entirely sure that we'll get him, because I think it'll come down to price wise. You know, I think we'll just get priced out of him. But I'd love to see him stay at Celtic. Edwards, again, I don't think he's unhappy. I don't think there's any part of his play. I think it's just the kind of, I think it's just the fact that he's French. You know, these French players seem to have a kind of, they're either on it or they're no. And you can tell if they're not in the mood, that, you know, the head's down and they're just sulking about the place. Whereas I think when he's on fire, Edward can be quiet in a game for 50, 60 minutes and then score a wonderful goal or produce this magic piece of skill, just to let you know he's still in the game and he's still capable of it. I would be doing all I could do to keep Edward at the club. It's then all about trying to put a partner up front with him to help him, because he can't play up there himself. It's been proven that he can't play up there himself. Griffiths is the best player to play with him. And as much as I'd love to see a Yeti and Klamala make it at Celtic, they're just not going to get that run of games where you've got one up front and they've got maybe, as I say, there's 4 or 5 strikers to get in front of. So I don't see, I think Eddie will probably, I'm probably 70-30 in terms of Eddie going. I think he probably will leave. It's just, it's all going to come down to who's coming in manager-wise. Can a new manager persuade Odsonne Edouard? Can an Eddie Howe sell Edouard on a dream that he's got for Celtic? So whether or not that's the case, I totally agree with you on Laxalt. I think Diego Laxalt is a decent enough player. I don't think he's cut out for the Scottish Premier League. So I think he'll end up going back to AC Milan. In terms of Callum McGregor, obviously been tipped a lot he's been touted a lot with Brendan Rodgers, a reunion at Leicester City. How much do you think Callum McGregor would go for?
If you asked me a couple of years ago, it would probably be a lot more than I would say now, because of every club's struggling financially. So I don't think McGregor would go. And I know he had a good relationship with Rodgers, but I think his relationship with Celtics means much more than it does Rodgers. So I think McGregor won't go this season. Maybe he will next or season after, because I know Bruni's leaving. So I think McGregor's chance to take over that captaincy will be a big thing for him to stay. But that being that, if the money's right and Celtic accept it, for Edward and Ajer, for the two of them, a couple of years back, you'd be, or even before this pandemic, you'd be talking, 50 million for they two,
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case this summer, if they're going. So, potentially you might get 30 for both Ajer and Edward, potentially. I think McGregor will command a £15 million transfer fee as well, even though I still think that's low, but due to the situation, I think that's a kind of fair price for that clubs will pay. But I think he's in the 20s as well. For me, McGregor, he plays so many games, and I think you can see that dip in form that he's had for a few weeks. Not today, maybe last month. He's just, maybe engine just never stops. He's every game, so many games, Scotland, Celtic, every game. And you can see that catch up in him. But, he was great today, and I hope that continues. And he's a great player. I think he'll get the captaincy. I think he'll be at Celtic next season, and he'll be determined to win that league title back.
I'll be honest, I'm a massive Callum McGregor fan, and I think I worry that he's not got that in him, because he's a very shy boy. He's a very quiet kind of player, and you wonder if he's got that fire in his belly like Brown has, like Ajer has, and all the rest of it. I think it's more the popularity choice with Callum. I think that's probably why he will get the captain's armband. I think he will probably be the suitor for whether Brown has a say in it. I don't know, but I think he's definitely the popular choice. For me, I just think Ajer's got that wee bit bite about him that he'll get his team up for it, and I worry that Callum wouldn't. But in terms of if you're selling 3 of them as a kind of trio, I reckon you could get 60 million. I think you could probably get 20 for Eddie still. As you say, a couple of seasons ago, maybe last season, I think you could have been looking at 30 or 40 million. You could have named your price, but I think that's massively dropped. I still think you get 20 for him. I think you could get close between 15 and 20 for Ajer, and the rest made up with Callum kind of thing. I think every club is looking for a kind of Callum McGregor type player, somebody that's got an engine on him that can go. I mean, I think a couple of seasons ago, he played something like 60 consecutive games, 60 odd consecutive games, which is incredible for a player of the game nowadays. But, he's a massive player for Celtic. And yeah, I'd agree with you in the sense that I don't think he'll be forced away, he'll be tempted away, because like maybe Edward or Ajer would, I think he's got Celtic too much in his heart. I think that he's been there long enough, and him and Jamesy will probably want to stay a wee bit longer. But listen, I mean, obviously there must be stuff going on behind the scenes, because they can't leave this to chance. You need to start deciding on who's going to stay, who's going to go. And I just think you just need to, in terms of Ryan Christie, I think Ryan Christie will stay, but I don't see him commanding a huge fee if he does go. I don't see a Premier League club paying 10, 12, 14 million for him.
I think you might get 10. for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, I think between 8 and 10 probably.
I think what you'll see is a lot of Premier League clubs will try and steal Rangers and Celtic kind of best players because money is tighter in all the clubs. So they'll be going for cheaper options that are just as good. And, let's get Sergio Aguero signed up, man. This guy's leaving.
Why not? I can imagine Aguero up here, what a signing that would be. But I mean, Danny says, I'd like to see Celtic go for Porteous for Hibs. Good player. He is a good player.
Yes,
a wee bit hot-headed. Almost reminds me of Brown. When Brown came to Celtic, he was very hot-headed still. Needs to learn, and maybe Celtic would be the place for him to learn. In terms of who I'd like to see come in, if we were to go down the kind of Scottish Premiership route, I would like to see us go for somebody like Declan Gallagher. I can see Declan Gallagher in that defence, teaming up with kind of Turnbull again. I think he'd be an excellent acquisition if you're looking at Scottish players. But I don't want to see his fill a team with Scottish players, because what you're going to end up with is, it might be all right domestically and you might go and win trophies, but you've got to look at the bigger picture here and look at Champions League. Obviously, Champions League qualification is a guarantee, whoever wins the league next year. So it's all about winning the league next year and getting that 30 million banked. Try and recoup some of the loss that we've obviously made through the pandemic. But in terms of, is there any other Scottish players that you would like to see come into the Premiership?
Obviously Scotland, the Scottish national team, how much has that improved as of late? Mm-hmm. And Steve Clarke, everybody moans about him in terms of, he always makes teams hard to beat, but the goals don't come, there's not enough goals. But look at you put that 11, they're starting 11. Some of them are like top Premiership players, regular starters, and you're just, and there's a guy in there that plays at right back, and he doesn't have the best of times sometimes domestically, but internationally he's very solid. O'Donnell. Yeah, and I think if we can't get John Joe Kenny, I think he'd be a good option, because he's shown at international level that he can do well, and I think that's important for Celtic, because obviously with European competition he'll be used to that, but domestically he knows the Scottish League as well, and people might look at it as a cheap option. He's not. We can do better than that. But let's be honest with you, there's other places that we're probably going to have to spend a bit more money on, so maybe that is an option. But I've always liked O'Donnell since he was at Kilmarnock. He's come into that Scottish team and he's done well, so he's one I would look at.
Totally agree. O'Donnell's obviously been tipped for Celtic. I don't know if he was an ex-Celtic player, if he was there when he was younger, maybe. Same with Gallagher, but he's another player, as you say. If you don't get Kenny, maybe go for him, as you say. He's shown it at international level, and if you can do it at international level, then that's the kind of almost the same as being in Europe. Playing in Europe regularly. Just going to finish off with that preview of the Cup. Possible, I should say, the possible Cup clash next Saturday against Rangers. Still to be confirmed. First of all, I think it's ludicrous that that Premier Sports have been allowed to make this a 4:00 kickoff on a Saturday night. I think it's unbelievable. It's great if you're a neutral and you're sitting in house watching it, but if you're a Celtic and Rangers fan, it's absolute nightmare, and it's chaos for the police as well. Do you know what I mean? It's absolute chaos.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think they're probably using the fact the pubs on the open, so
Yeah, no fans in the ground.
Yeah, that's why it's been allowed. Otherwise it would be at midday or half 12. So,
aye,
yeah.
But the fact they've not even made it a Sunday. Everybody, everybody's got to work on a Monday, so why not make it 4:00 on Sunday then? That would, to me, that would make a wee bit more sense. But obviously, the police haven't kiboshed it yet. I'm very, very surprised that they haven't, because I think Glasgow will be a war zone. Regardless of the result, I think it will be a war zone. Edward Haswell said Celtic should win against Rangers next Saturday at Ibrox. I think we will win. What do you think the prediction will be for next Saturday? Would be a score prediction?
So, it's really tricky, because we should have won the last two, and we didn't. If I take today's performance and have been positive, and I think they're going to be consistent and they're going to go out like they did today. A real togetherness, a real balance, real width. Rangers can't match us. Rangers won the league this year because we were poor. If we were at our best, we would have beat Rangers. Wouldn't have been in the situation we are now. I think potentially today might give the guys a lot of confidence. The fact that that's now 6 games and only conceded 1 goal, 1 goal being against Rangers, obviously. I think getting into the next game, they'll be high in confidence. I hope the consistency remains there. They're confident, and I'm pretty sure everybody will want a 4-5-0. Like, there'll be nothing better just to put them back in their box and say, see you later. We'll see you next season when that trophy's coming back. And, put them out the Scottish Cup because, there goes the Invincibles. They can say they maybe finish invincible in the league. But when Celtic were invincible, they won the treble as well. And they won every competition that season. So it's massive. And I think... Yeah, I think John Kennedy next week, they're talking about the new manager shouldn't come in because they've got the Scottish Cup to play for. If that changes next week and we get put out, the new manager needs to come in.
Yeah,
there's nothing else to play for.
Exactly. As you say, maybe Eddie Howe's, I don't mean, or whoever the new manager's going to be, you should say, maybe he's looked at it and thought, no, it's maybe too soon to be handling a game like that. But if you look at it in the flip side, imagine going to Ibrox and winning and knocking them at the cup. My God, hero status right away. Do you know what I mean? So I think you've got to take a chance sometimes. As you say, we've outplayed them in the last 2 games, and I think we've walked away with nothing. Obviously a point last time round, but I think my worry is now that, not so much a worry, but you can just see us playing absolutely shockingly next Saturday and somehow winning the game. Maybe that's what it takes. Maybe it's going to take winning ugly next week because at the end of the day, I was looking in the records. I think the last time they've only beaten us twice in the Scottish Cup in the last 20 years, I'm pretty sure, in terms of the beat us. It took them to penalties, obviously, under Ronnie Dyle at Hampden, Scottish Cup semi-final. And then before that, I believe, was the 2002 Scottish Cup final. And Lovenkrands scored a last-minute winner. So that was, obviously, I think that's the last 2. I think we've won 5 or 6 since that final. So it's massive, and I think the players need to be up for it. As I say, I hope that the players are up for it, especially after today. But it just, as I say, it just worries me still under Kennedy. I still think he's going to be very cagey. He's going to be very defensive minded. For me, the team that he started today has to start next Saturday. Obviously, we're going to be waiting on James Forrest, whether or not he's going to manage to play. And if he doesn't, then obviously we'll need to, I'd imagine Ryan Christie will probably fill in that slot. For me, I'm going to go 2-1 to Celtic. I don't really see us winning, I'll be honest. But in my heart, I'm always going to say, we'll win. As I say, I think it's going to be massive. 2 teams are up for it. It'll be interesting to see who the pressure's on, really, because Rangers possibly going for a double, and Celtic obviously trying to beat Rangers for the first time this season, and trying to stop them getting to a cup final. So it's massive, a massive game next week. Hopefully it goes ahead next Saturday. I think it will. Michael says, on today's performance, being clinical, we can take 3 off of them. Michael was raving about the performance today. He was absolutely delighted. Martin Wicker says, shite draw. And Danny says, 2-0 Celtic, come on the hoops. As I say, listen, it's going to be a massive, massive week ahead, whether or not we get a new manager announced. I would love to see us announce Eddie Howe maybe Thursday or Friday before the game and give the players a lift. I think that would be massive in terms of giving the players a lift, and I'd love to see it. Maybe that's why they've left it. Maybe that's why they've waited. They might have been waiting for longer, and then obviously we get drawn against Rangers. and maybe this is a plan. I don't know. But as I say, we're going to leave it there, Paul. Thanks very much for coming on. Been absolutely brilliant. Hopefully get you back on the page, do a wee DJ set for us one night. And as I say, guys, this has been the first episode of the Celtic FC Appreciation Show. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the views. We're going to be back next Saturday night. I'm not sure who's coming on yet. But we're going to get somebody, at least one other person on. We're obviously going to be trying to run competitions, kind of do spot prizes, quizzes as well. And we're going to get a few acts on to do interviews as well, and a few big names. So, as I say, thanks for watching, guys. Keep following the page, keep liking the page. I'm going to be starting up a YouTube account as well for the page. Follow us on Instagram, CFC Appreciation, and on Facebook, rather, Celtic FC Appreciation. The likes have been absolutely rocketing up, and hopefully we can keep it going and keep growing the page, and we can keep getting you bigger acts on the page. But as I say, hope the rest of your weekend's good, Paul. And thanks for coming on, mate. Cheers.
No. Hey, Will. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.